It's a question that we're all dying to know the answer to. Is Braylon Mullins coming to Indiana?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Well, thank you so much again for being here and making this your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your audio podcast, and also free and available each and every day on YouTube as well. Thank you so much again. We are in the off season here on the College Channel, and so going 3 days a week, trying to get 4 once the seasons get going. We will be back to 5 days a week. So if you have not become an everydayer, you need to go ahead and do that right now, because we'll have episodes for you each and every day, free to you, the fan. All right, lots to get to on the show today. The question is, can Indiana land Braylon Mullins? Will he become an Indiana Hoosier, a guy that has shot up the recruiting rankings, and everybody knows his name now? He was somebody that nobody knew, and now he's somebody that everybody knows, okay? We're talking about him today. Plus, the NCAA sends out a proposal to the conferences around Division I basketball to expand the NCAA tournament. Why? Why are we trying to add more teams? I have thoughts on that today as well. Plus, good news for Kel'el Ware. Indiana's projected first-round draft pick to the NBA was invited to Brooklyn. He will be in the green room in attendance at the NBA draft. That's significant for a couple of reasons. So we have all of that for you on Locked On Hoosiers here today. Well, it's a guy we've talked a lot about, and it's a guy that I'm very excited about. If you have not figured that out, then I don't know. Maybe you haven't been here long enough. Maybe you're not an everyday, or you need to go back and watch some of our other episodes about Braylon Mullins, okay? He's a guy that was unranked. He was somebody that not many people knew about. Indiana did. Indiana knew about this kid. And now all of a sudden, it's not just big name programs. It's the big name programs. All the biggest ones are now calling on Braylon Mullins, not just the Notre Dames, Michigans, and Michigan States of the world. We're talking about the UConns and the North Carolinas and the Kentuckys. They are all in on this kid now, but Indiana's been in on Braylon Mullins for a long, long time. His previous ranking in the 247 sports rankings on the high school recruits, he was previously at 80, which was a jump from where he used to be before. And now, in the most recent high school recruiting rankings, he is a top 25 player, is Braylon Mullins. And we know that he has scheduled an official visit. He will be in Bloomington on September 21st, that weekend that Indiana will host him and some other big name recruits, right? We know that as well. So it's exciting to know that he's going to be here. He has some other official visits scheduled. He'll take a visit to Tennessee, Michigan, and some unofficials to some other places as well. But I continue to go back to the fact that we have known him and been on him for a long time. And I think you have to sell a future to Braylon Mullins. You have to have some sort of goal in mind to get a kid like this, because now everybody in the country wants him, because everybody in the country understands just how good he is and how good he's going to be. You have to sell him that he's going to be the next best guard, the next best shooting guard in the history of Indiana basketball. And you have to just show him what Trey Galloway has been here. And I think he could be even better than Trey Galloway. Look at some of the others you've had in the past. And sure, you can go back and look at the guys from the 70s and the 80s, but I'm going to be honest, I wasn't around then, and I'm not going to talk about those guys. But what I am going to talk about are guys that have played recently, guys that you now can put in the NBA that you can sell to Braylon Mullins. And you can sell the system. You can sell the process. You can sell the results to a big-time high school recruit like that, who's an in-state kid who has no reason but to be right here in Bloomington, Indiana, and wearing these wonderful colors here in Assembly Hall. And so I think if Mike Woodson and this staff can sell those things, then yeah, I think you absolutely can and will land Braylon Mullins. Is NIL a problem? No, I don't think so. I don't think Indiana's in an issue with that right now, especially on this particular player and on the basketball side. I think you're fine there. I think you have everything you want, everything you need. And I just have to think you sell him a future and what his role would look like and what his future would look like if he came to Indiana. He could be one of the guys. The potential of the 25 class right now is insane anyway. It's ridiculous about how stacked the 2025 recruiting class as a whole already is, but what Indiana's class could look like for 2025 is absurd. I don't think we're going to have a problem with only getting one player like Mackenzie Mbaka. We're only getting one player like Bryson Tucker, as we've seen these past couple of years. I think you're going to see multiple, and you could have 4 or 5 guys walk in at the same time and it be like the John Calipari Kentucky classes that he's had in the past. Of course, he's at Arkansas now, but you get what I'm saying. I think the Hoosiers have that potential, and I think one of the main guys is Braylon Mullins. You sell him on being the next great shooting guard at Indiana. You sell him on being the next great thing, the next best thing for the Hoosiers moving forward, and how he can get to the NBA, how he can be a next level guy, college, and then the NBA. You lay that out for him, how could you turn it down? You lay out the fact that he could stay home, how could he turn it down? You lay out the fact of the other players that he could play with in 2025 and beyond, how could you turn it down? And I don't think he can. I think you present him something that is so good, it's undeniable for a guy like Braylon Mullins, for a guy like Jalen Harrelson, for all these guys, the Trent Sisleys of the world, right? We talk about them and what it's going to take to get here. I don't have a full prediction yet, but I feel good about Braylon. I do. I feel good about him and his relationship with Indiana. All those official visits he takes this fall are going to be interesting. He's going to some SEC schools with Saturday football. He's going to be going to games and enjoying the weekends. Like, all of that's going to play a big factor. There's no doubt about it. But I think the Hoosiers, since they've been on him since the beginning, and they're one of the biggest programs on him right now, I think they have a great chance to land Braylon Mullins, and selling him on the future of him and his significant role in what he would bring to Indiana basketball. I think it's so good. It's so good to where he couldn't turn it down. And I hope that's the case. I hope they lay that out for him on his official visit come September, and then we'll see what happens. We'll see what he decides. But he's one of the anchors of this class. He's one of the guys that the Hoosiers desperately want and desperately need for 2025. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, we will look at college basketball on a broader scale as the NCAA trying to do something I just can't stand and I think is completely idiotic. We're talking about that coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Look, Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. Some of my favorite qualities and aspects of the Game Time app: it's easy to find and buy Major League Baseball tickets, and for every kind of event in your area, theater, comedy, music, sports, you name it, Game Time, they've got it. I've used multiple different events on Game Time, and I've used Game Time a dozen times now on different sporting events. I've gone to comedy. I know friends that have done theater, and everybody loves using the Game Time app. Some of my favorite features also: all-in pricing, which is if you toggle that feature, you're going to show the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. You see exactly what you're paying for, and their lowest price guarantee is it's exactly that. It's a guarantee, because if it's not, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference of a competitor. That's what makes Game Time so special. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Again, appreciate you being here, making this your first listen, first watch each and every day. Reminder, we're free and available however you get your podcast on any of your audio platforms. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. And it's always free to you, my wonderful listeners, viewers, and everydayers. If you have not already, be sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel on YouTube. We continue to grow. Like us, subscribe on your audio platforms. I don't ever want you to miss a new episode, okay? I don't want you to miss that. So become an everydayer, subscribe to wherever you are, and that way you never miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers. The NCAA has sent out a proposal, all right? They sent it out yesterday on Thursday to all of the commissioners of Division I conferences in college athletics. And the proposal was to expand the NCAA basketball tournament for the men's and the women's, right? We know right now that it's 64, technically 68 with the first four. And now they are giving, I guess, conferences the option to add on 4 more teams, add on 8 more teams, or leave it as is at the current 68. And my initial response to this is, why? Why are we doing this? Why are you adding more teams to a tournament that I think is already too big, to a tournament that is already too long? I love March Madness. I love the NCAA tournament, but the fact that it's called March Madness and we play the national championship game and most of the time the Final Four in April, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense now, does it? And none of the bottom tier teams that make the NCAA tournament are actually competing for national championships. Can we admit that? Can we acknowledge that here for a second? I mean, does the 68th best team really have a chance at winning the national championship? And so I add that on to the conversation and to this topic of the 72nd best team or the 76th best team. A, are they good enough to win and compete for a national championship? And my thought in theory on this is, why do they deserve a chance to compete and play for a national championship? They were the 76th best team in the country. Do you really think they earned it? Did they deserve it? No. The NCAA and these conferences just want to make it as big as possible. They want to hand out participation trophies to anybody and everybody who is willing to take one because it means more teams, more games, and more money. It's all a money grab. That's all it is. And that's all it's ever been, and that's all it'll ever be. That's how all of this runs. And it's sad. It's really, really sad because that's what I was going to say college sports, but that's just what sports are nowadays. It's all about the money. It's what makes the world go round, right? It's the saying as old as time. That's all this is about for the NCAA, and it's being pushed by the big conferences like the Big Ten, like the SEC, who want more teams represented, who want to pound their chest and say that they're the best at everything. And I'm talking about both conferences here. Sure, smaller conferences like the AAC or the Sun Belt or whatever, right? They will benefit too because they might actually get more than one team in other than their automatic bid conference champion. But they don't have the say and the power and the money that the SEC and the Big Ten do. It's those two big conferences that are saying, hey, why don't we let a few more other teams in? We may as well, let's let a few other teams in and see how it goes, right? Then all of those bubble teams that we talk about all the time, yeah, all of those are going to be coming from the SEC and from the Big Ten because they want more teams in and they want more money. It's ridiculous. I don't get it. Well, I'll take that back. I do get it. I just think it's dumb. I think it's stupid. I think there's no reason to have 72, 76, or whatever, however many teams they want to be in the NCAA tournament. I think 68 is too much. I think 64 is too much. I think 32 is too much, right? And you can relate this to college football with the college football playoff, right? With the 12-team playoff now. You started with just 2 games in the BCS National Championship. You eventually went to the 4-team playoff. We knew that wasn't going to last forever. It lasted longer than I thought it would, I'll be honest. And now here we are. We're moving into 24, the 2024 season, and we have a 12-team playoff. Do we really think it's going to stay at that for college football? Let's be honest with ourselves. Look at what we're talking about with basketball. We're at 68, and they're saying that's not enough. It'll never be enough. Eventually, everybody will make the postseason, everybody will be involved, and everybody's going to have a hunky-dory time because that means more money for the people in power. And that's just how it works. That's how college sports, all sports, have gone to that narrative. And I get it. You got to make money. You got to operate. You got to pay people to do their jobs. I understand. But I feel like with the NCAA basketball tournament, we have lost sight of what this means, what the reason for it is, the true meaning of the NCAA tournament. It's to crown a champion. It's to declare the best team in college basketball. And I just don't feel like that's what it's about anymore. I mean, yes, you still get a winner and a loser. You still get to write in the history book who won the national championship, but do we really think the NCAA and all these conferences are really worried about that? Do they really care on who wins the national championship? No, they're not concerned about that. They're not concerned about who crowning the right team, the correct team, the best team. They could care less. They don't care. They want it to be as many teams as possible for as many games as possible for as much money as possible. To relate this to Indiana, I think in some years, sure, it would benefit us. I mean, this past year, no, probably not. I mean, that was a team that had to make a run and win the Big Ten title to make it into the NCAA tournament. And I think this upcoming year, and it's not going to happen this year, I'm just using these years as a reference here. This upcoming year, I think we'll be in the tournament very easily. I think we'll be a 5 seed or better in the upcoming NCAA tournament. So it wouldn't affect us then. But at the same time, let's take a mediocre year for Indiana basketball. If we're the 70th team in the tournament, like, do we really want to be in at that point? I mean, we know what's going to happen. We know that we're not good enough to be there, or any team for that matter who's in that position. You have to know deep down that you're just not good enough. You're not supposed to be there. And so for us personally, for Indiana, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. It's not. It is what it is. They're going to do it regardless. So we may as well just accept it and understand that this will be the new way of college basketball. And they have gone to say that if they do it on the men's side, they will most likely do it on the women's side too. They would probably do it to match. And so whether they keep it at 68, whether they go to 72, or if they go to 76, I'm in disagreement with it. I think it's dumb, but that's where we're headed now. And the NCAA sent that out to the commissioners of Division I conferences on Thursday. We'll see when they vote, when all that would take place. We don't have those details quite yet, but I don't know. I felt like it was important, especially with us being the basketball fans that we are, and watching the future of the NCAA tournament. Looks like it's changing in front of our eyes. Well, coming up, final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, back to Indiana. Kel'el Ware, who is a projected first-round draft pick for Indiana basketball in the NBA. He'll be in Brooklyn for the NBA draft. He got the Green Room invitation. We'll talk about that coming up next on our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Final segment here on the show. Again, I appreciate you. Appreciate you being here again, making this your first listen each and every day. Shout out to all of my everydayers, those of you that come back each and every day, truly having this a part of your rotation. You are the reason that we're here and that we're so successful. Okay. Got good news from this week, right? Kel'el Ware, a guy that is a projected first-round draft pick, somebody who will be representing Indiana in the upcoming NBA draft. He will be in Brooklyn. He will be at the NBA draft. He got the Green Room invitation. He is going to be present there for the draft. And what that means, for those of you that maybe don't quite know or understand what that means there's a good chance he's going to be picked in the first round. And there are people who have been quoted saying that he has lottery potential, which means top 15 in the NBA draft. And they invite him to be there in case he gets picked high. He has to be on TV and do the whole thing, right? Go up and shake Adam Silver's hand and get the hat, take the picture, do the interviews, do the whole shebang, right? Do the whole 9 yards, which is what you deserve if you are a top draft pick in the NBA. And so for him to be invited, there's a chance, right? There's a chance that he is going to be drafted early and in that first round, but they're saying he could be drafted in the lottery in the top 15. And I think that's a huge deal. I think he's good enough, right? We've talked about how he's floated around from like 22 to 17 and things like that. And it all comes down to what a team needs. And it comes down to if they believe that he will benefit them right now, long term, a little bit of both. And I think Kel'el Ware absolutely can. We've had that conversation where he can benefit somebody right now. And he's going to come in. He's going to play great defense. He knows how to score. He has a few things to develop, a jump shot, a three-point shot. Maybe I just don't see that happening, and probably put on a little bit of muscle. But then long term, if he gets drafted to a team like the Lakers, which is the team he's been projected to a few times, he gets to sit behind Anthony Davis. When Davis is eventually done, you would hope that Kel'el Ware would be seasoned enough, year 2, 3, 4, what have you, where he could step in and be the guy. He could step in, be the man, know what to do, be a starter, and you would have confidence in him as an NBA organization. So really excited for Kel'el Ware to be not just hoping to hear his name called in the NBA draft, but getting invited to the NBA draft. The 7-footer, 230-pound center. I mean, he's just going to be a beast in the NBA, and I'm really, really happy for him that he came from Oregon here to Bloomington, played a really good, short but great career at Indiana, and now is going to take his talents to the next level. He will be drafted, and he will be drafted pretty high. Do I think he's a lottery pick? Do I think he will be a lottery pick? My prediction's no. My prediction is no, but that doesn't mean he won't be. He very well could be, and I hope I'm wrong. But excited to see where he goes, get him on TV. He gets to represent us, gets to represent himself, and really show the world that he is just a good dude. He's a good guy, and I think he's going to have a long and successful career as long as he's injury-free, right? Knock on wood, God forbid any of that type of stuff. And I just want him to go to the right spot, because if he gets drafted somewhere that they don't necessarily need him, but they take the best player available at that time, and he gets drafted somewhere that, has a big man already, then he could get stuck and thrown around a little bit, traded around a little bit, could have to go play overseas, do that type of thing. And I don't want that to happen to him. I want him to go to a spot where he can make an immediate impact, he can season, he can kind of learn, he can train, he can get better, and then a couple of years down the road, they could put him in and rely on him, rather than, like I said, go somewhere that just flat out doesn't need him. Or you see this a ton of times, right? He gets drafted to an organization and a team that needs him immediately, which he's not that high of a pick, so I think he'll be okay and avoid this, but go somewhere where he has to step in and start day one, be the guy day one, and just flames out because he never became what his potential was. I don't think that happens here. I think he'll get drafted somewhere that needs him, that wants him, and will keep him long term. And I think Kel'el Ware's got a chance to be a really good NBA player throughout his career. So excited to see what happens with him at the NBA draft. He will be in Brooklyn on June 26th is when the first round will be. And it's on 26th and 27th. So we're just about a week or so away from the NBA draft, and Kel'el Ware from Indiana will be in attendance. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. I appreciate you again being here, man, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. If you are not subscribed already, please do so on YouTube, on your audio platforms, wherever you're listening and watching. Be sure you are following us, subscribe to us. That way you get notified every time a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers drops. Like this video, comment down below if you're on YouTube. Have a great weekend. We will be back next week. All right, we'll be back next week, still in off-season mode, 3 to 4 episodes a week. Who knows what's going to happen between now and then? Have a great weekend. Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.